Welcome back to the SMITE Pro League, everybody. We're getting ready for the second set of the day. But before we do, we got to remember to remind you of our title sponsor for this SPL in Season 8. It's Alienware. All the players got hooked up with some incredibly beastly PCs that they've been using in order to elevate their game to the next level. Make sure that you guys get involved with Alienware as well. Just go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW in order to get access to some great deals through them. Mifflin joining me here on the desk as we get ready for the next set of the day. And the final set of the week here, Miff, the Kings trying to test their might once again, this time up against the Solar Scarabs.
Maybe not the greatest test of their might so far, right? These guys have stepped up against the Dragons already. They've stepped up against the Leviathans as well, if memory serves. So the Scarabs, I think, is really the ones getting tested in this set, whether or not they can keep this pace rolling, this week in, week out improvement. If they can stand up to the Kings, I think it really is. Scarabs are the challengers here.
And the last time we saw the Solar Scarabs was yesterday up against Tartarus Titans, where the Titans found their first game wins of the SPL season in a 2-0 victory over the Scarabs. But the Scarabs did not go down without a fight, despite it looking like they could. I mean, Scary D had 9 kills in 9 minutes in that game, but the Scarabs scrapped their way back into it. Certainly not a team that you can afford to count out, as they are sitting at 1-3, now just half a game ahead of the Oni Warriors. The Kings looking to keep pace with the top 3 and find their third victory so far. Miff, this King squad, a lot of talk about them so far and what they've been doing throughout this SPL season. But what's impressed me the most is how well they've worked as a team. What have you noticed from them?
Well, Agger, you kind of took it away from me, man. It's how well they worked as a team,
that.
Yes, but also the fact that I think coming into this year, if you look at each one of these individual players, you'd say, okay, that's maybe second best in slot in role, third best slot in role, but it really is that the Kings are greater than the sum of their parts. These guys are playing far and beyond, I think, the individual talent on this roster is, and maybe that's an unfair assumption or an unfair way to say it, because these guys are all individually great, but oh, man, it's just that you stole it, Aggro. My whole thing was how these guys are so sick as a team, and they look better and quicker than anyone was really expecting, and it might be the shot calling, but you kind of nailed it in like 3 words, so maybe you just take it back.
No, I think that you could say all those things that you just said, and you've brought value to the desk instantly, Mifflin. I don't know
nice.
why I'm having to pep talk you in the middle of our desk segment here, buddy. We gotta keep it going. Look, this Camelot Kings squad has a lot of those tools of teamwork, of course, but their willingness to go with some different styles of picks also comes to mind for this squad. I mean, Genetics, always known as a theory crafter and someone willing to try out a lot of different things, but Twig has been that in the jungle. He's shown us a lot of different play styles. Netroid has looked good across a couple of different hunters. I think this team's flexibility has also been good.
Yeah, they are adaptable, isn't it? They're not bringing the exact same strategy to every single match, and I think Genetics is a good player to highlight. It's not only his god pool that's adaptable. This guy, if memory serves and if the grapevine has not lied to me, is the primary shot caller for this Kings roster. Coming to the SPL, that's got to be a tall task, especially considering he's playing across the pond.
It's true. It's certainly not an easy role to step into and be a leader right away. Miff, you have some experience in that role as a shot caller. What does it require in order to find success there?
Infinite patience, depending on how stubborn and mule-headed your teammates can be at times. But outside of that, I think it's the willingness to keep making decisions that you know have the potential to be wrong. You can throw out a call like, for the Kings, for example, they go for that kind of backdoor end where they traded out Fire Giant. Genetics makes that call knowing that it's incredibly risky. Having the willingness to do those things to try and find a win is incredibly important, but also difficult to do, knowing that, well, you can just fall back and make a much easier, safer call. I think keeping your eyes on the victory and being able to risk it is inherently valuable.
That team certainly has been able to do that so far. A lot of flexibility for this King squad, and they could need it up against the Solar Scarabs team. In fact, let's ask the man himself. Genetics joining us now for the pregame interview. Genetics, I mean, this King squad has been so good out of the start of the gate, despite the 2-2 record. I think a lot of people surprised the level of play. Has it surprised you guys at all where you are at this point in the season?
Yeah, we were kind of saying we weren't expecting to be doing as well as we've done so far. We thought we'd be around where Oni Warriors would be, a little bit lower down, like probably 5th towards the first split, especially with ping disadvantage as well. So we're fantastic where we are right now, especially as a new team no synergy as well.
Well, Genetics, we were talking a little bit earlier about how you are the shot caller. At least we have heard that you're the shot caller for this team. But can you give me a breakdown of what communications are like? Is it just you out there kind of dictating the pace of the match? Or is it maybe Netroid helps out a little bit with objective shot calling? Or maybe BMT's just out there complaining constantly? Like, how's it roll out?
Well, it's a lot different from scrims to game day for sure. But on game day, when everyone's firing every single cylinder, it's really easy to work with. Everyone's giving ideas. Everyone's saying when they've got power spikes, when they can fight. So it's just a really easy team to manage. Scrims are different. Scrims are awful, but game day's fantastic. Which is what matters.
Sounds like you guys are in mid SPL form, man. Scrims awful, game day good. That's exactly what you want it to be. Let's look real quick before we let you go, Genetics, at what you're going to face on today. The Solar Scarabs. This team has had some high highs already, despite being pretty unknown. What have you seen from them so far during the season?
I think Scarabs are, because they're such a relatively new roster, kind of talent-wise, I think it's always weird to underrate players because they improve so much week by week compared to, for example, the Jade Dragons. So I think it's really weird to go in super confident because they might learn something that they didn't know the week before and then they catch you off guard, right? Usually the players that are lower in the league want to improve more, and so it's just kind of weird week by week to play versus them because they'll improve so much.
Well, let's see how much they've improved. Genetics, good luck in your matchup against them. Looking forward to what we're going to see from you. Good luck in that matchup. Myth, overall, this week in the SPL has shown us that a lot of the things that we saw early on may not have been what they seemed. The Tiamat has looked very good the last few games. Yana seems to be potentially more than just a heroine character, as Baronic has looked particularly good on it. And on her as well has really taken the league by storm.
It really has, man. The meta is constantly adapting, but I know I quote Hindu Man all the time, but it's because he is the voice of reason in the backstage. He said to me at the beginning of Season 8, all right, everything you're seeing right now, weeks 1 through 5, really aren't going to be expected to be seen throughout the entirety of the year. As the map changes, as the meta changes, these pros are adapting and figuring out how to really optimize the play around it. Not just god picks, but also builds and relic usage as well. So I think that we are starting to hit that curve where it is going to be a little bit more consistent now. Week 3, week 4, I think is really going to iron out the meta, and we're going to see some more consistency throughout Season 8.
Excited to see what the rest of the season is going to bring in that regard for sure. Getting ready for picks and bans shortly here, everybody, so appreciate you sticking with us. But want to remind you that you could be sitting there in your chair, Maxonomics chair, of course, in style, courtesy of Insight Apparel. Make sure you go to shop.smiteproleague.com in order to get your hands on the brand new Smite Pro League gear brought to you by Insight. You could be rocking a jersey, t-shirt, hoodie. They got it all over there, so make sure you're heading down to that link right there. Shop.smiteproleague.com is the place to go. If you heard Genetics say it during that pregame interview that the Scarabs team seems to be improving week to week, that they've got a lot of room to grow and that they've really utilized that so far. What do you think some of the biggest improvements they've made have been during this season?
I think it is early game positioning. We saw that in particular around the duo lane. They like to play aggressive, Zapman and inbound, but first week it was aggressive play that really wasn't amounting to much, but now we're starting to see them find first blood and then find some small leads off of it. Inbound rotates out of lane a lot earlier than he used to and then shifts that pressure into mid. I think that this team has been working incredibly hard on their early game, and it's already starting to show the fruits of their effort. I want to see them now transition it more so towards effort, towards the mid game and the late. But if you go back to the interview we had with Inbound, that's exactly how they said they were going to work on it. They want to work on each phase of the game individually. So keep your eyes on them. I'm sure they're going to be improving a lot every single week.
Well, let's see how much they've worked on their picks and bans as we are ready to go for the second and final set of this Sunday, and thus the final set of this week of the SPL. It's the Solar Scarabs in that first pick position. And after watching that last set, my mind is kind of on Yamoja. Rongyu living rent-free in my head with how good he looked on that pick, but he's not the only one who had a pretty impressive performance on it this week. Genetics as well looked good on that pick earlier on. So excited to see if that's going to be the call for him as we get it started. Big Man Tings has looked good on that Tiamat. We haven't seen it from Baronic quite yet. Makes me wonder if the Scarabs are going to be the ones that feel like they need to be the one banning the Tiamat in this game.
I think not only the Tiamat, but the Yemoja that you already highlighted. We've seen Inbound back in Season 7 and a couple times here in Season 8 trying to attempt to use the Yemoja, but I don't think it necessarily fits his god pool. Yemoja is a god that you want to play a little bit further back, use that displacement from a range, and then throw up the walls. Inbound's a player that likes to kind of face roll his way in a team fight, a more Hercules style or a Sobek or something along those lines. Ymir, not exactly that facilitator style that Yemoja brings, that hang back heal. So I think that I would not be too surprised if we see them go towards the Yemoja ban as well as the Tiamat ban, but I was not predicting the Naja almost directly targeted at Captain Twig, who's going to have to go a little bit deeper into his god pool.
I mean, that was the ban that the Jade Dragons threw out at Twig's way. We've seen Twig pick it up since then and kind of validate that strategy from the Jade Dragons because he has looked so good on it. Twig is the man on the mind of the Scarabs, it looks like, as the Erlang Shen ban comes through as well as Baronik Giannis taken away. Seems like teams have really started to respect that pick against him. In 1/3 of their games, it's banned against the Scarabs.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Forcing Baronik to be a little bit more uncomfortable is always going to be valuable. I can already imagine the Kings are saying, all right, look, Baronik's one of the newest players in the league here. He's newer to the PC as well. Layers has been tearing up the PC ranked scene for a long time. Baronik a little bit less so they want to make sure he is as uncomfortable as possible. But tossing him towards a Tiamat, I think, probably not the best start. We've seen him play it once before, I believe, and he looked pretty decent on it, putting out a good amount of damage, as well as it just has decent survivability. So I don't think you're feeling too bad if you fall down from the Yanis to the Tiamat.
No, I don't think so either, but the Kings now have the option of the Athena, and they don't take it. I'm surprised because Twig made that pick look near unbeatable in the jungle the last time he had his hands on it, and that's the pick that has been left open. I thought it was going to be an Athena lock for sure here for the Kings. Now the Scarabs have a chance to send chat into a frenzy by getting Tiamat and Athena on the same team. All of Reddit is going to lose their minds. I mean, surely a team that gets the top gods in the entire meta right now should be there. And you're right, on her available for them if they so choose.
Let's go.
Exactly where they're going to go. Tiamat Athena on her is a draft that I think a lot of teams would do a lot to get, but the Solar Scarabs have it here in Game 1.
Yeah, I think I'd commit like grand larceny in order to get this top 3 for my team, at least, you know, some sort of federal crime, right? This shouldn't be legal to lock in. I think the Solar Scarabs come away with potentially one of the best, if not the best, top 3 that you could hope for inside of a draft. Maybe if you're still a Tiamat fence sitter, you're not really a truther for this god, you might prefer it to be something like the Giannis, but I can't slight the global presence that Athena brings, the lane pressure that On Her brings, and the Solar Scarabs are benefiting from the fact that Athena does act as a flex pick. Are the Kings going to ban out some supports? Are they going to ban out junglers? Are they going to ban out solo laners? It's yet to be seen because we don't know where this Athena is going.
Well, the Fenrir pickup most likely there for Captain Twig. That's where we saw it last time the Kings locked it in, but always has that flex potential into the support role, as really has been spearheaded by Polar Bear Mike of the Jade Dragons. Genetics tweeted the other day that he thinks that PBM and Panicat are the GOAT duo lane, that they do so much so well. I imagine if you're paying that much attention to what that team's doing, you're probably thinking that Fenrir support doesn't look too bad in certain compositions, so I'm not going to rule it out here for the Kings.
But they do usually, the Dragons that is, pair up that Fenrir support with a lot more CC elsewhere on the map. You want that Ragnarok to at least be able to pull someone in instead of just pulling in beads every single time. King Arthur has the potential to burn beads with his ultimate, Heimdall the exact same, but those are both gods that I think, well, King Arthur only gets one, Heimdall only gets one, and is very seldom doing it outside of self-peel situations. So I want to see the Kings round out this draft with a little bit more consistent CC, which is why I think the Scarabs elect to ban out that Ares. That No Escape is so good for stripping away multiple targets worth of beads, and CC immune ultimates should have been able to facilitate that Fenrir incredibly well. I think it's a very intelligent ban if they are assuming this Fenrir is going into jungle.
And Genetics has used that Ares to great effectiveness as of late. As the Dodgy ban comes in, Layers was willing to pick this yesterday, I do believe. Did not end up looking phenomenal on it, but had his moments for sure. And the Kings put some respect its way. No ban on the Ra. That's a classic big man Tings god that he has looked very good on in his career and fits that same mold as the Kukulkan, which is banned away by the Solar Scarabs.
Still has the Morrigan out there, something that BMT's been very successful on in the past. Could even go towards something like the Discordia. I think there's a lot of good picks still available to him, so he's not feeling too bad leaving that Kukulkan on the ban table. And as you already highlighted, that Ra still available for them. But you gotta imagine they're thinking about some CC. We get a little bit of a light shine on the draft here for the Kings. That Khepri lock-in does almost confirm that this Fenrir is going to the jungle. King Arthur solo, Heimdall inside that ADC role. And they're going to go ahead and wait out and see where BMT elects to go with his pick. Now the Solar Scarabs are going to have to show their hand. Where is this Athena going? Is it support? Is it solo? Is it jungle? It's all going to be revealed here.
Something tells me that it's likely going to go to a side lane. Layers, normally a bit more of a hyper carry style player, likes to play things like the Nemesis and the Susano in order to put the ball in his hands. And Serket can do that as well, just bringing that CC across the map. And it will be Athena support, almost certainly, for the Solar Scarabs with that Achilles locked in for SOT. I don't know about you, Myth, but Serket, I mean, her win rate looks good. She's winning a lot of games. I'm still not super sold on her in the meta right now. Where do you rate the jungler?
I think that she is solidly mid of 8s here, maybe a little bit A+. I think that the strength of Serket is the exact same as it used to be back in Season 4 and Season 5 when Bruiser builds were all the rave. Serket has just phenomenal jungle clear despite the item path that she likes to go for. If she goes for pure damage or for that tankiness, doesn't really matter. That first ability is so good for clearing out bat camps as well as your speed buff, and you can maneuver the map incredibly well. If you do like to go a little bit more tanky as well, you can just use that true damage from the Death's Kiss ultimate, and it's a fantastic setup for your team. I think that I'm a Serket truther, aggro. I can't back you up here, man.
Yeah, look, I should have known, man. Jungler with a lot of CC and who gets to face roll their keyboard early game. Of course, Mifflin's gonna like her. I should have known better. As it is the Raw for Big Man Tings to round out the draft. Plenty of setup for this Raw snipe. I mean, Arthur can do it, Heimdall can do it, Fenrir and Khepri both incredibly capable of setting it up. I like it here for Big Man Tings. It brings that objective secure that has been so important so far through the SPL season.
It does, and it has some late game sustain. These dances around the fire giant have been a little bit longer in Season 8. If it goes 3-4 minutes like we've seen in the past, well, the team with the healing is going to be benefiting greatly. But my only concern for this Kings draft is all of their CC is still single target. Going to be very hard to set up for this Ragnarok.
Yeah, maybe just a single set of purification beats on a frontliner could throw things awry. On the other side, the Solar Scarabs, plenty of CC. I mean, CC across the board. I like their draft quite a bit, but their damage also feels a little bit single target. Tiamat not that giant AoE mage.
Yeah, and Tiamat has a little bit of a struggle finding that burst off the back of CC. Has to channel that ability.
We'll see if she can do it here. Scarabs up against Kings, game 1. Let's throw it to the casters.
Thank you, Aggro and Mifflin on the desk. Scarabs Kings will be the ones providing the action, and it'll be Finchgore and Doug providing the views. Let's move into the action right away. Bumba's dagger for Layers as he takes this Athena into the jungle. Inbound will be piloting the Serket from support. And then the Achilles, I think, obviously will end up over in the solo lane after all of that. Gore, this certainly was a possible sort of permutation here, but I don't blame the desk for thinking of it more like the Serket in jungle Athena support on this one. How do you like where these pieces ended up?
I'm really intrigued by it, and again, I think it's with judgment withstanding as to whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing, right? We've seen Athena jump into the jungle, and we've seen her do well in the jungle, and that being a constant threat of traversal, right? It's part of the reason she's a good support is you have this global ultimate, you can just kind of teleport over to a teammate when necessary. That's a little scarier when your jungler is going to be following up on it. But the thing is, and tell me, like, stop me if you've heard me before, because me and you had this conversation, I think on Friday, like, it hasn't even been that long, but we were talking about the Tiamat-Athena combo, and that there is not a big burst follow-up for the Athena taunt, similar to what you would get out of things like a Scylla, or in this case, like a Ra on the other side. And I'm wondering how that's going to work here for Layers and Baronic. And so there's a lot of, I think, little things that are going to have to come together. We've seen Tiamat does a lot of damage. We'll have to see if that taunt combo is going to work out for the mid laner this time around and give Baronic a pretty good lead. But realistically, this is just a really interesting change-up, and I like the fact that the Scarabs are willing to go out on this limb and I feel like try something fresh. I mean, we know that Inbound can play the Circuit support, and we know Athena can flex into the jungle right now. I like that they're trying it out.
Right, and allows them to sort of, I think, really bolster this jungle mid combo in particular, and then Inbound can come over and really form the rest of this mid 3v3. It's really a question of, are you comfortable with this Athena having a bit more of a damaging build, and I think that's likely what we'll be seeing, especially because Inbound was almost certainly, or rather whoever piloted this Circuit was going to really go really tanky just about no matter what. Looks like we are going to have a pause here, though. SMITE fans that are out there, so we'll be working on getting everyone right back into the action and getting you right back into the action. So, Gora, I think that's kind of one of the big questions I'm thinking that you ask yourself when you decide where you want that Athena to go. Do we want her to be a little bit more damage dealing on this team? And kind of as you said, that provides sort of the secondary source of reliable magic damage for this team that I think is going to be pretty big.
And there's like so many different combinations. Like, are you going to build power items akin to what a mage is building? Like, do you want your abilities to hit really hard? Athena's not an auto attack god, so I can guarantee like all that, take that and toss it. Like, none of those items are going to matter. But are you going to build similar to what we see some of the tanks build? Like, a Ymir, when he's ahead, will pick up an E-Staff because he knows he can deal a little more damage if he picks it up. Is that going to be the option? Like, is Layers still trying to do the hybrid thing? I think there's a lot of little avenues and, again, little decisions you can make that still prioritize power and, you know, his magical abilities without necessarily stripping away all of that health that he's going to be able to bring. But it's not going to be the same Athena. Like, she's not going to be able to withstand as much damage no matter what, unless you go for a tank build. Theoretically, he has more farm, but there's no way you're killing as many jungle camps if you have all of that. So there's a little bit of a shuffle that we're going to have to keep our eyes on Layers for. And after these boots, like, first off, going for Shoes of the Magi already, it's a deviation, right? We're used to seeing the tank boots picked up there, but of course it's going to have to be something a little more powerful for him. I'm wondering if you know, Spear of Desolation, Rod up to Hooties. I mean, it's Athena having taunts up, a Chronos Pendant, not necessarily the end-all, be-all. Like, there's a lot of good items that you could have to be powerful here. I just want to know what his jungle build will be.
Well, our chance to look at it.
Genetics?
Inbound going with this Boots Rush. Genetics is present over here. Right. And a little low. He makes his way back towards safety, perhaps recognizing there'd be blue buff pressure, but he's not enough on his own. It's the dash into the taunt. Inbound right there to follow up, but they can't provide the actual peel he needs. No, they turn around, they swap their targets, and suddenly it's SOT that's in trouble. Genetics can't find the dash, but they don't need it. Variety gets first blood. And how do they get so lost there, Gore? They should have at least been able to get that kill into Genetics to set up first blood.
It feels like they were so certain they were going to be able to get Genetics that they turned and tried to go for the peel on Twig, because Twig is such a menace right now. I mean, I think his damage was kind of distracting. He jumps right into the middle of them, is a big disruptive force. Of course, Variety rotating in. King Arthur early on is huge. I mean, I agree with you. Like, that should have been first blood on Genetics, and it just feels like they get kind of lost in the sauce there and turn the wrong way. And now, what was weird, I mean, I was thinking 2.5 minutes in, you're level 2 as a support. Why are either of you over here? But Genetics gets a small lead, Twig gets a small lead off that first blood, and they're going to be feeling very comfortable. I guess the same thing can be said for Variety. Like, that is not how you want to start here. If you're the Athena, you want to be able to confirm that kill. It's unfortunate for SOT that he's the one that ends up taking the spill, but this is the power. Like, I think the Kings can build off that play itself pretty easily.
It's a big play, right? I mean, not just in terms of the fact they were able to get both blue buffs, it looks like, on that side of the map with this first blood. It's setting, as you said, Variety up with a bit of a lead, and really kind of thumping the Scarabs back down when they're the ones looking to get aggressive. With this mid 3v3 combo of Layers, Inbound, and Baronic with Athena, Tiamat, and this Circuit, that is a ton of initiation potential of pressure on your CC immunity, kind of showing that you've got an ability to respond to that early. I think is going to be big. It's only going to get worse because now Layers is Defender of Olympus, and Inbound will soon have that last breath. So you got to make sure you're still able to keep dealing with it going forward if you're a Kings fan, but for now, you got to feel real good about how they started this game.
I mean, that is, again, just a very clean, I want to say, disruption of the Solar Scarabs, and I think they have a lot of potential for that. Layers is going to be able to out-rotate Twig, though. Like, I mean, that's just by nature of whenever his ult is up, he can teleport across the map. Like, he can go force a gank on Variety, make Twig reply over there, and then instantly show up to put some pressure on the Netrioid, and that's something that Twig's just not going to be able to handle the same way. But Twig has his ult, and if you're able to, instead of trying to worry about ganks on lanes, lock down Layers, that's good.
But Layers can't get there first if he's the one getting initiated on. Maybe charge the ult instantly, but too late for that now. But a big response from SOT. A 3-man stun gets his bud out of what was certainly death that was awaiting him. Now, Big Man Tings rotates into this fight on the right-hand side, and not too far behind is Baronic. But Layers can re-engage now after taking a trip to the base. He's fully healthy. Taunt comes through, but Twig finds a better stun onto 2-man. Tings has the damage, and Layers has nearly died now twice in the same engagement.
And it looks like he's going to be able to make it out of there a second time. I was wondering the follow-up on the Layers or on the inbound. Inbound even stuck around. I mean, at this point, I would have thought he would have
Still
packed.
not 5.
He doesn't want to, fall too far behind. Not level 5 yet. Good kills from the Kings. And again, just good setup. Tings has a great ult there, recognizes what the Scarabs are going for, and just kind of reads the room, knows that he doesn't need the crazy setup. I mean, yeah, it's going to be great if Genetics is on a pull, if Twig gets a massive stun, if Variety goes up into the air with somebody. Those are really easy follow-ups, but sometimes you can just read the map and see where the positioning is going to be. Connects on 2 there. Even though it doesn't result in some crazy kills, kind of 2 TKOs, right? Like, I mean, you force inbound and Layers to back to base, Layers twice, and as such, they lose out on a little bit of farm because of it. And at this point in the game, it's maybe not so much that it's falling apart for the Scarabs, but it is enough that they're going to start feeling it. It's not a level lead yet, but all of a sudden we're at 1,400, 1,500 gold in favor of the Kings. Like, little things like that are going to be what builds up a much more massive lead. So the Scarabs are going to have cleaner engagements and really much just better follow-through on their engagements to make sure things really start to click together.
Remember, that fight does start with the Kings kind of taking it to Layers on the back of an ultimate there from Twig. I like the idea of the Kings kind of taking the fight to Layers. It makes his ultimate way less effective by kind of bringing the party to him and saying, well, where are you going to go with that ultimate now? And really Layers saving it to re-engage after finding a back to the base, and does get back in there, but just not enough for him to turn it around. The Kings in a pretty good position now at this point. Still waiting on Genetics' shell to come back up, Variety's beads. Wouldn't be surprised, though, if that when they get that shell, Genetics feels like getting aggressive again. I mean, look at this. You pointed out earlier. He's been on this right side of the map from minute 1, and I wonder if SOT recognizes it. They're here for the blue buff invade, and yeah, he's set up shop, hasn't he? I mean, he's pitched a tent. This is where my man wants to be, helping Twig and Variety find this constant pressure on the left side, on the right side of the map in solo.
Yeah.
They do invade the blue buff. Genetics keeps inbound from even dreaming of rotating in.
Yeah, at this point, you know, a lot of people, the lava pools in the fire giant pit, they're decent damage. You stand in them, they're going to hurt, but Genetics is showing us that it's also good for roasting marshmallows, making some s'mores. My man is camping on the right-hand side of the map. He knows where he wants to be. But the thing is like, Khepri, like, is not the guy I think of as this hyper-rotator. Like, he's not really fast. He's a pretty big dude as well. Like, he's not hard to miss, right? He's very easy to locate on the map, usually, and figure out where he is going to be or where he's going. And so it's impressive to me that it just feels like Genetics is literally everywhere. Like, anytime we go to a new point of interest, Genetics is very close by on the camera. The only time it's ever been different is when we are over here on left, and now Netroid seems like he might get punished for that.
Looks like it. He does use a good ultimate, but does get hit by that Cobra's Kiss. Not enough, though, as Netroid has to give up his ultimate and the beads inbound, just using Blink and ult to close that gap. So a good bit committed there, but I think the job done in terms of kind of sending Netroid back out of lane and getting Zap some pressure on the left side. Speaking of what it looks like when you've got a lane lead and can apply that in terms of influence in the lane, look at Variety in control over SOT with a 2-level lead, though it looks like we are going to be also having a bit of a pause. Genetics just got caught out by inbound, and we'll see if that'll result in a death or not momentarily. But this is already an action-packed game right out of the start, and it's all stemming from solo side invades and gank attempts.
Yep. I mean, it feels like they're kind of playing out of Variety. Like, I look at this, I think Tings and Netroid, because of the nature of the gods they're playing, they're going to hit hard later on no matter what, and neither of them are really suffering. I mean, Netroid falls a little bit behind because of that last gank, but Tings was a level up over there in mid. Maybe it's about half a level given the way discrepancy is. And so there's a lot of little things that I think can change, but you put a King Arthur ahead, and all of a sudden he's just a lot more potent. Achilles becomes maybe more of an execute machine, stun machine, but he's not going to be able to survive in the fights as long as Variety can continue this kind of trajectory forward. What was it, 2 levels, maybe 1.5, slowly can become a full 2, then a 2.5, then maybe he's sitting up comfortably at 3. And then the rotations that can come out from the solo lane really will start to hurt anybody. And I'm looking at Boronic and Layers because I think they're going to be the ones who probably end up feeling it first.
Right, they're the ones that are going to end up getting dove by the guy with that lead later on. Let's take a look back at that very first blood. See how low Genetics was, but Variety turns this fight in an instant. SOT becomes the target, and Variety sticks on him. A huge play there. And then this was the second blood. Remember, starting with an engagement on 2 Layers and putting him in a tough spot, but a pretty good set of peel there from SOT, just unluckily did not end up turning that fight around.
And I love that we got the perspective because, I mean, look at this. There's a little bit of setup, but it is exactly what you would expect from a Ra, right? Find the right angle, look where you need to look. That ults, and this is something that you're only going to get from a Ra ult, right? Maybe there's a couple others like Spirit of the Nine Winds, but because Ra ult is so precise and the way it fires, you're covering that entire archway. The only pathway through and forward for the Scarabs is now just a damage zone from Ra. And so the 2 people who are trying to be in the fight, who have to be because they're melee range in the fight, well, guess what they get hit with? A massive front of damage. And it's little things like that. I mean, Ting's this Kukulkan, I think it was banned, the last ban of this game, but it's something that he's been really prominent with, this Ra. Like, these long ultimates where he's able to kind of dictate certain portions of the map and say, you can just not stand there right now. It really is impacting the game in a way that I would equate to like a Ymir wall, not to the same level because Ymir wall lasts forever and it just straight up stops your pathing, but is really dictating the pathing of the Scarabs.
Well, sure looks like Genetics survived his strife, but it's Twig now the one that's starting things off. Zatman has to use beads. Defender of Olympus comes out as well. And that's a huge win, and maybe an even bigger one coming as Variety leverages the lead in solo and cuts down SOT. And the Kings are going to have pressure for Cold Fury in lap. This is what total map dominance looks like. You pressure out an over response from the Scarab to try and keep Zatman alive, and you're able to get a kill in solo, and able to get the Gold Fury essentially all at once.
I mean, the 1, 2, 3, everything that you would ever need on that one just came to the forefront. I mean, you get Zapman TKO'd, he's not going to be able to join the fight. Layers jumps in, but because that ult's down, he can't go back to solo, he can't really re-engage. And I'm going to, just throw it out there, Athena, Spear of Desolation, on his own, I don't really think he's the kind of guy that's going to walk in and steal an objective right now. I mean, maybe with the taunt, or not the taunt, the dash, the reach on your spear when you get that after a dash, there's a lot of openings for an Athena. But I just don't think right now is the period of the game where Layers has been able to shine his brightest so far. And Boronic doesn't have the same security Kings is going to be able to bring, so there's a lot of little, again, small details. The Kings are playing them to their maximum efficiency to make sure that they can get to control the map in a way that the Scarabs are struggling at this point to keep up with. They did get that first round of enhanced buffs, but that hasn't led to much else, and it feels like Inbound's in trouble now.
He is stuck between Twig and Genetics. The snipe does connect, and that should be it, but Inbound goes to the last breath to buy a moment. That forces Twig to respond with the Ragnarok. Maybe a little bit of an overcommitment as the taunt leads into Twig, and Netroid taking tons of damage. But Netroid back out of there, uses the Bifrost and rides his way out of there. But it looks like SOT wants a bit more. He's looking for a stun. But the damage from Tings is pretty good, and I think that's enough to convince SOT to rethink. Meanwhile, look at Variety. He's going a bit of a hunt of his own, but there's nothing for him to actually take back there. I like the idea from him, but didn't quite bear fruit. Now he has a chance to maybe collapse here in mid, and Layers is of course going to be the target. He's got Blink, no beads, and he's dead to rights. Variety cleans up on the back of a great engage from the Kings.
Yeah, it's the weird dynamic. For Variety, that's a level 10 Athena. That's a pretty easy kill for you. Opposite for SOT, that's a level 13 Ra. I need to stay away. I mean, that is just a good dichotomy of why, and a good example, I should say, of why this early game experience is just so crucial to them, because it's not even that, the Scarabs are playing poorly. It's just the fact that the Kings have gotten themselves such a lead at this point across the board that even when they're making the right plays and what I would argue are some of the right calls, they're going to get punished for it because of the already established lead. The Kings, just because by merits of being ahead, are going to be able to do a little bit more. Tings is about to hit another big power spike. You heard in the interview that they're very vocal about things like that. Once he gets this Rada Tahuti, I expect to see even more fights from the Kings. I think they're going to be ready and willing to take anything because the damage from Tings is just going to be almost too immense.
And he went for even a little bit more of that instant gratification there as well. Yeah, it's Charon's coin. So I think your point maybe even more correct than you'd thought, as they went for something that's win now, that's start this train right now. We are leaving the station, and that does indeed seem to be the call there for him. And as long as he's got Captain Twig and Genetics sort of flanking him, the setup is all there. The Abduct, a great tool, as well as Captain Twig's Leap and the Ragnarok. Is inbound tries to catch out Netroid, but he's been safe over there in the long lane. He gets all the way back towards his Tier 1. Scarabs got to find some kind of way to stop the bleeding here at this point. It's going to be tough for SOT to be a part of it when he's level 11 as opposed to Variety, who's level 15. He's an little baby at this point, man. He cannot step up to Variety at all. So I think the Scarabs are going to have to try and look elsewhere for it, and that's why you see inbound gank in the long lane. It's just not coming to fruition.
It's good luck trying to kill off Variety at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Good luck trying to kill off Tings. I mean, yeah, inbound's level 9. I mean, granted, that's not too far behind. Genetics is just level 10, so it's not that big a difference. But a level 9 Serket versus a level 15 Ra or a level 14 Heimdall isn't going to do too much in my eyes. It's going to be a setup machine, but that's where that conversation comes back in. In fact, even now inbound is looking to be in all of that trouble. I don't know if there's much to say about that, except that, well, Tings missed it. Oh, that we got to highlight that part, right? Like, he was just off the mark, was a little too short, and that is maybe the biggest thing. And with this pause coming through, we won't be able to hover it, but I'm going to use this time because I saw it when we hovered the Charon's coin. Both mid laners have picked it up. My favorite flavor text of an item, I think, in the game period, has to be the last line of Charon's coin, because every time the coin is flipped, you gain 1 gold. And that is just the most arbitrary, like, okay, here's a single gold for you. You're not going to be able to do anything with it. It's not substantial, but I do love that coming through. I really like what they've been able to bring into this. The Kings right now are just dominating. Again, like you said, with that item, it's just going to be another big power spike. Everyone feels too far behind on the Scarabs that... in my mind, you're starting to not even play for the now. You're starting to play for the 10 minutes from now, the 15 minutes from now. Like, you want to just prolong the game, make sure you can equalize experience, even if it means being behind in gold, and stop the Kings later on, because otherwise they're just going to continue rolling over you in these team fights.
Well, of course, sounds like there's some internet troubles, though, for the teams. What we're going to be doing here now, though, we're going to take a quick break. As soon as we can get these players back into the action, we will get back into the action ourselves. So stick with us, and we'll be right back. Well, we are right back into the action. No need to wait for the timer if we're already moving into the actual game. So the Tier 1 tower in mid has come down in favor of the Camelot Kings, who have been a runaway train so far. About 6,000 gold in their favor. And coming up with some pretty big power spikes. Looks like Pridwin going to be there for Captain Twig. Sovereignty for Genetics. And some big items coming in that are not going to just only make them unkillable, but will really justify continued engagement. I don't even think they're going to wait. They're going to go for Primal Fury, and there's no one from Scarabs even considering wanting to be there for this. They just can't afford to take a fight against the Kings. They have to do what they're doing, look for farm anywhere else on the map. Solar Troll pushing up. Layers trying to invade that blue buff, and inbound being hunted by Captain Twig. The Fury does go to the Kings, as everyone in this not just in this lobby, but watching on Twitch expected. And so it's really going to be more about what can the Scarabs do, Core, to try and find some farm somewhere on the map to eventually close up this gap.
Well, there's a good start. They get the tier 1 over here and right. What a cinematic view it is as the tower crumbles. That's actually a really sick time for the pause to be able to come through. But I think this is, again, the small things that you can do to prolong the game at this point, right? Pick up anything and everything that is just going to stop the Kings from rolling over you. I mean, it's a 6,000 gold lead 15 minutes in, Finch. There's no way to sugarcoat this. You're falling behind. If you're the Scarabs, you're 1 misplay away from losing this game. Maybe 2 misplays away from losing this game because respawn timers at this point are going to be so quick. But I think that's the biggest deal for them is stop taking bad, favorable trades and figure out where you need to get engaged. Take things like this where it's a 2v1.
Twig turns it into an engagement for his own team inbound, pulled under the tower and then commits the last breath. That's no shot, right?
Oh.
No, of course not. But maybe
Oh,
Quick dies anyway.
no.
Give my man something. No, there's nothing there. Variety takes the kill in inbound as he swings for the fences, tries to at least get something for his team, but there's nothing there at all.
I mean, that was, so in like horror movie, I guess action movies, like inbound fell down the pit, but his hand reached up. And 9 times out of 10, you see that hand grab like an ankle and it pulls someone down with him. It's the Balrog finding the whip onto Gandalf's leg and pulling him down into the fight, right? Except in this instance, the whip just missed. It just didn't connect. They weren't able to find it. And inbound ends up falling down all on his lonesome. I mean, it's 7-0. It's 6,000 gold. It is a lot to overcome at this point. But I look at the map. There's a lot of gold still on the map in terms of towers. Pyromancer's about to come up. Fire Giant's still available. The Scarabs aren't out of it. They just have to start choosing these engagements, and as well as their re-engagements, things like that, a little bit cleaner when they decide to hard commit, what they're going to do with those hard commits, because I mean, you're starting to fall behind. We already talked about SOT, but inbound at this point, as a Circuit, already being behind isn't necessarily that big a deal. Layers just used his ult and found literally nothing for it over here. Like, it just feels like the communication right now on the Scarabs is what's falling apart as opposed to the Kings that, if you watch the minimap, they're moving like a well-oiled machine.
They're getting around the map well. Does look like Netroid ult ended up coming out and all that, so I suppose that's at least something, but nothing really crazy came out of it as the Kings move over towards Pyromancer now on the right side. And they've got everyone except Netroid here. Again, moving as a unit. The well-oiled machine you mentioned continues to hum along, and the Scarabs struggling to figure out how to get something in those gears and slow down the work the Kings are doing right now. Zatman is still relevant in this one. That's worth noting. Level 18 has that Wind Demon finish, so the crit build is online. But the thing about it is, Variety, Twig, and Genetics all are so tanky at this point. It's going to be hard for him to do any damage to them. He's got to find a way to Tingsor Netroid for his damage to really hit maximum relevancy.
They've got to be able to find pretty much, not even a miracle play, but a lot of picks, a lot of individual gains that they can pull things around. And unfortunately, even on equal footing, that quote-unquote 2v2 over here doesn't feel that equal, especially with Twig hanging off in the jungle. His ult is available inbound, no beads. I mean, seems like a pretty easy target to jump in, grab, and just bring the Netroid to let him shred.
Tier 1 is going to go down. No real fight just yet as Genetics takes a little bit of poke. But think about this. The Kings are pulling the Scarabs in so they're not farming as Twig gets the beads out from Baronic, who does jump away. Genetics steps in and puts in the last bit of damage necessary. Baronic falls. Meanwhile, Variety has already dove past. Big stun from Twig and follows with the Brutalize, and inbound falls as well. The mid support already cleaned up by the Kings, and who needs to go to FG when you're this far ahead? The Kings can just look for outright fights. They can take the tier 2 tower now, threaten just about anything they want. It looks like they want to start trying to threaten this left side. Phoenix in the way is Zatman. SOT is way on his own, pushing on that tier 2 over in right. So this Phoenix is going to go down, and SOT can't even push that tier 2, at least not yet, because the Kings are taking everything they want from the base of the Scarabs.
Finch, I'm going to tell you, Phoenix should never look that easy. 19 minutes in, and they just kind of knock it down. Zatman throws a few autos at them, but they don't ever feel worried about it. Look, Variety's backing where the tier 2 is, unworried about them fighting him, because what are you going to do? Stop him? Like, he's level 18, he's going to turn around and mess you up. You don't try to pick a fight with him, but with no Fire Giant, they do that. And the Kings are now in a much stronger position with that left Phoenix taken down to put pressure onto a Fire Giant and look even better because of it. Gold Fury's going to be coming up. Maybe there's a window. The Scarabs come in, scoop up a Fury while the Kings are off picking up an FG. Or maybe you go for the Hail Mary play. I mean, at this point, it's getting around that area where I don't want to, like, say it's coffins for the Scarabs, but you really got to start thinking about what can you do. And when I start thinking of what can you do, it's try to swipe away an FG from under the nose of the Kings in the sense that while they are doing it, you're able to find a steal, try to pick up a Fury if possible. The minute this global audio cue comes off, even before then, the Kings are going to start it up an FG, and they're going to get this one with pretty much low effort.
It looks like there really won't be a contest here from the Scarabs, and they're making the right call on that. You just got to remember that Zapman is very willing, and as a leader of this team, I think that's important, to bunker down. Right, they know that they're behind, and they know it's going to be really tough for them to come out and contest the Kings on neutral ground. So as long as they set up their defense, they can defend, but are they even going to get here in time? The Kings are already inside the right side Phoenix. That plan, that bunkering down, all that only matters if it happens, and it hasn't happened yet. This right side Phoenix already in danger of falling, but in comes the engage. Inbound moves in first. SOT and Layers right behind, but the Camelot Kings too tanky and too far ahead. Captain Twig takes down the Phoenix and then jumps in. It does cost them genetics, but the snipe from Kings damage is good, and they're going to bring Baronic right on down. A kill for Variety as they make it a 2-for-1 trade, giving up their support for the mid and carry. I think they'll do that happily every single time.
I don't know. Genetics is, I could imagine, upset that he marred the perfect game for them, right? I mean, you get one pullback finally. The execute comes in handy. SOT, even from behind, that execute is able to eat through the Khepri ult, so it does make sure to eliminate Genetics. But like you said, a trade that you're almost always happy to take pretty much at any point in the game. It does clap a little bit back in favor of the Scarabs, just in terms of, well, what? Now it's a 4v5, but it feels like even as a 4v5, except 4v3, it's not going to be enough for them. This mid Phoenix is going to disappear quickly, and it feels like the Kings are just driving this one home.
Let's see. Looks like they're going to ease up in the end, though. Maybe if those timers weren't so close to coming up, they'd go for it there, but this is already a pretty high advantage state where you're very likely to win the game from here. It's over 14,000 gold in their favor. Even the experience still matters. There's only one level 20 on the side of the Scarabs. Everyone else is truly facing a deficit. I mean, Inbound 4 levels away from getting his starter upgraded when Genetics can do it now. To give you an idea, still a ways away for Layers as well before he can upgrade his. So this advantage very much real. And if you're the Scarabs, all you can do is hope you can find some kind of win once the Kings come in for this last bit of Titan push. Looks like they'll probably end up fighting on that left Phoenix core since it's respawning, but even still, no other way to say it, but then that'll be tough for the Scarabs.
Yeah, but hey, Zapman teams, 3 Phoenixes down and comebacks. That's something that goes hand in hand. But this will be the true testament, right? Is it like Zapman or was it Neil, right? We gave a lot of credit to Neil, and I think appropriately because of his infamous, not even infamous, famous speeches that come through. Will the Scarabs be able to put on a show like that? Granted, it's not a world stage, so, you know, you shake your magic 8 ball, it should say no, but they do still have that chance, that opening. Again, as slim as it may be, one good fight right here. 5 towers standing on the other side. You run through mid, you run through left. Either way, the timers on the Kings should be a little bit longer. If you can just make a Hail Mary, not even a Hail Mary play, win a fight, win the game right here if you're the Scarabs. Just run it down mid.
Zapman still doesn't have beads. He was 3 seconds away, and that is a death sentence in the eyes of the King. Inbound are forced to jump away. SMT able to find the path for the fatal strike, but now it's the Frenzy pop. It's an all-in commit, and it's the Titan down. The King's able to find a dominant Game 1 win, looking very, very clean up against the Scarabs.
I mean, good, right? This is something like, as the Kings have kind of won me over recently, I've been watching, like, after watching them week in, week out, the way they've improved, they you know, pushed the Leviathans to 3 games, they had the longest game up against the Dragons. Like, I have a lot of high expectations for this team, and this kind of confirms that I should continue having those, right? I mean, that was a very clean game of Smite. They did not leave many openings for the Scarabs to get back into it after they got their lead, and realistically, they should not change anything. Now, on the other side of that, the Scarabs still have a game to turn it around, And they need to change a whole lot before they get into game number 2. Mentality, I think even draft-wise, like they just go back to the drawing board, come back into game 2 fresh.
Well, if you want to celebrate how good your team is currently looking, and I gotta hope your team is the Kings, if that's what you'd like to do, then head on over to the shop and pick up some games. That is thanks to Inside Apparel for hooking us up. It is shop.smiteproleague.com, and you can grab yourself not just a jersey, hoodies, all that cool stuff, and look good representing the teams that make you feel good when they're able to grab some wins. Congrats to the Kings for getting it done, and we are going to have to take ourselves a quick break, then we'll be right back to break it all down.
Welcome back to the SMITE Pro League, everybody. After a dominant Game 1 performance by the Camelot Kings, you might be thinking to yourself, man, how did these guys get so good at SMITE? Well, let me tell you, they were really good, and then they got these beast PCs from Alienware, and that's how they were able to put out a performance like you just saw. Make sure you're heading on over to smitegame.com/Alienware and using code SMITEAW in order to get as good as the Camelot Kings. What's the disclaimer they always put on these, Mifflin? Read the terms of service. Not all, you might not experience the same side effects, whatever it is.
Total lie. Yeah, we lied.
What?
Well,
What?
Because like
Me?
the gear doesn't make the muscle. Well,
No,
yeah,
it
so
does.
if you buy
it does. No,
the Alienware,
other gear
yeah, you'll get
doesn't.
really good.
It's
Okay,
Alienware
yeah.
does, right, yeah.
Okay, I forgot about that.
That's what they do. Right, yeah, you got to remember that. Look, Miff, the Kings, not much to say about this one besides they came in and absolutely dominated here in Game 1.
They did. Maybe we can talk about how they did it, right? Off the back
Sure.
of some phenomenal individual play from Variety to find that first blood turnaround. And then from there, yeah, it was just kind of a clean dub for the Camelot Kings. But I'm glad we got this clip. This is First Blood. It's a blue buff defense, I believe, from the Camelot Kings. And immediately, the game was out of control from that point onward. It just felt like to me that the Solar Scarabs we're experimenting a little bit, didn't it? Inbound goes to the Circuit support, Layers goes to that the slightly unorthodox, or at least outside of his own wheelhouse, Athena jungle. I want to see them get back to basics, get back to what that has been working for them in the past, and we'll see how then they stack up against the Kings.
It just felt like a little bit too much of everything, I think, for the Solar Scarabs composition. It's a lot of CC and that kind of stuff, but the follow-up damage really wasn't there. The whole right side of the map really belonged to the Kings from a very early point in the game. It was just too simple for the Camelot Kings. Once Variety got ahead, he clocked in at 6-0. Only one kill in this game for the Solar Scarabs, and it was on to Genetics, which is the player most happy to take that spill. Zap and Netrioid didn't really need to do a whole lot, it felt like, because so much of the focus is on that right side of the map. 0-0 for Netrioid in the kill's death. Of course, contributed with the 5 assists, but I think the scoreboard shows where the focus was for the Kings.
Yeah, and it was around that Soul lane. The second Variety pulled that lead. They kind of hit the gas pedal over there. Said, oh, well, if that's where we're going to find our wins, might as well just keep on heading to that pool. And they certainly did. But that's not to say that the Solar Scarabs can't fight back in. I think that SOT is one of their more consistent players, so if potentially the Scarabs realize that the Camelot Kings are putting a lot of emphasis on solo, they can shift up their strategy and try and facilitate SOT.
Might have to be the call, because if the Kings are gonna put that much pressure onto him, I think you have to pick something that can help out a little bit better than that Athena and Circuit jungle. I don't know. We didn't even consider the possibility that could be Circuit support. That's something that really hasn't been seen for a little bit. Used to be very meta once upon a time, but if Circuit, in my mind, is already kind of on the fringe of doing enough, putting her in a position where she's just going to be with less farm makes it a little bit riskier, and I think that risk did not pay off there for the Solar Scarabs.
Yeah, here's the thing, Aggro, about how we weren't thinking about Circuit support. I don't think the Solar Scarabs are thinking about it anymore, right, after that first game. So maybe potentially we were right on that initial P's and B's. So far, though, it's looking largely the same. Naja getting taken off the table. Solar Scarabs do not want to deal with Captain Twig at his best, so they're going to go ahead and get rid of Erlang Shen as well. The Camelot Kings gonna go ahead and reprise the exact same bans from Game 1. Sobek and Yanis in their first two, largely standard.
Ymir as well, exact same first 3 bans for the Solar Scarabs. Now the Kings left with their option of what they want to do. They ban away on her this time around, interestingly enough. So now you've got a lot of options on the table. Everything open, it feels like, on both sides. Tiamat, Athena, Tsukiyomi, Guan Yu. There's a lot on the table here. Yamoja as well for both of these teams. And King's going to head towards that Guardian slot, or so it seems.
Yeah, Genetics Umoja is so strong. Gotta get them comfortable on that one. Should be able to, if they want to, flex their muscles and play a little bit more so around that duo lane if they decide. Umoja, so good. Maybe the most adept Guardian at finding pressure inside of the duo lane. Now Netrioid should be able to benefit from that. But they still leave a lot on the table. Tsukiyomi, as you already highlighted, Guan Yu still out there. And the Solar Scarabs decide to go towards a Wheelish this high up in the draft. I feel like that's a little bit questionable for me. King Arthur, though, Not going to catch me complaining about that one at all. You do not want that going back into Variety's hands, and we know that SOT is very adept at this pick.
Well, Layers, you're asking for something a little bit more in his wheelhouse, so Willish certainly fits that bill. But an Ares hover, you'd think you're safe from the Ares once that Yemoja's locked in, but Ares jungle was a thing not that long ago after the buff to the Searing Flames. Yeah, it was a thing. Is it a thing still? Hey, it was good at the SPL level. It won a lot of games up there for a while. I can't imagine that that's going to be the call here for the Kings, but if there's a team to do it, it's probably them.
Well, they could also flex it into Soul Lane. Variety, I think, has played Ares solo in the past at least once or twice, but it is going to be an Achilles lock-in, so maybe we stop our crazy theorizing for now and instead evaluate the top 3 of the Kings from here. Yemoja, Heimdall, and Achilles together is incredibly strong. You got that frontline core of Yemoja and Achilles, the sustain coming through, the execute potential as well. If Tiamat does try to utilize some of that damage mitigation in the late game, well, you don't really need to deal with it. You can just go ahead and execute through it. So I really do like the top 3 so far for the Kings, and the same for the Scarabs. But I feel like this Awelish did come in just a little bit too early. Now the Kings are going to try to avoid maybe drafting some leaps or even just get some a little bit more CC immunity inside their kits that they would have otherwise had they not had to worry about the gravity surge.
And take away some gods that can set up for that Awelish, Xing Chen included, as that is removed as an option for inbound in that support role. Kuzenbo, another god that Bobby has gone to consistently throughout his career, that is currently open. Wouldn't be too surprised to see the Kings toss a ban in that direction, though you could also try and take out another god from Zap's Hunter pool, something that Jingwei comes to mind in that lane. The Tiamat there for Baronic, how do you feel about them going back to it after that game 1? Was it just such a wash from the get-go that you're not putting a whole lot of stock in its performance?
I think that it's hard to put any stock into it, but I'm not a huge fan of Tiamat for the Solar Scarabs' identity as a team. I feel like they really do benefit from having just standard large burst damage off the back of decent CC, which is generally what they have gone for in the past, except for when they do elect to pick up that Yanis, which is a little bit less standard, but even then a lot more burst than what Tiamat brings from the initial damage output. I think that Baronic can certainly play this god. I've got experience playing against this guy. I've had experience talking to him as well. I know how he approaches the game, and Tiamat can fit his individual playstyle. I'm just not sure how well it's going to mesh with the kind of team fight identity that the Scarabs have.
Well, it was a weird god that started with A that was hovered initially for Ares, likely for the jungle. Then it was Arachne. Now we're hovering the Thanatos for Captain Twig. If there's a guy who's going to have an eclectic god pool in the jungle, it's likely to be the veteran jungler, but we'll have to wait and see what he ends up going for, as Terra and Jingwei are the options for the duo lane for the Solar Scarabs. Seen a little bit more Terra these days. We saw Mike Player the other day, only 2 picks, but 100% win rate. Picking Fenrir into the Awelish, that's a lot of confidence in yourself, Mifflin. Would you be doing that if you were in Twig shoes?
Look, Aggro, I don't often get the opportunity to correct you live on the air, so I'm going to do it here. That's not confidence. That is disrespect through and through. You don't lock in Fenrir into a Wheelish and say, well, yeah, this is a good decision ever. I think I can do it. It's saying that, all right, you can't play a Wheelish at your best level. It's not something that you're capable of. That's what I'm getting the read from this Fenrir, and it's toxic. It actually shook me. If I'm Layers right now, I'm thinking to myself, am I not good enough to earn at least a little bit of respect, even a look over here at what I'm playing before what you decide to play yourself? And I guess Twig, not going to give him that leisure, not going to give him that respect in the P's and B's.
I mean, how bad is the matchup really for Fenrir?
It's bad.
Is it really that bad?
Oh, it's pretty not good. If you kind of emphasize going for the Seething Howl first, you go for an auto attack centric build and you're not using Unchained or Brutalize, it's not too bad, but 2 of your abilities are kind of locked out immediately, and even if you do Brutalize when Gravity Surge is down, Feather Step straight up beats it, so it's tough. It's tough. It's a bad matchup.
But Twig, undeterred, willing to pick it anyways, and the rest of the Kings draft looks pretty standard for this squad. This is one of the more normal ones you'll see from them. They've been sticking to that standard smite as of late. We'll see if Twig's disrespect comes back to bite him, or if the Kings can go up and above that Awelish here in Game 2.
I mean, again, that still seems like the thing you don't want to do, right? If you go up above, she'll just pull you. It doesn't matter, aggro. Thank you and Miff on the desk. It's Finch and Gore here as the Scarabs now have got to prove, listen, you can't just pick a jump-dependent god against my Awilish. I ain't allowing it. So Layers has a lot to prove here, I think, in this one. Doesn't matter, though, if Twig's able to find pressure elsewhere on the map and can largely avoid the trap card that is this Awilish with her Gravity Surge. Gore, do you think that's the place that we have to focus in on, or is there elsewhere on this map you want to go? Baronic is back on this Tiamat again. We'll see if he can have a better game on it this time around.
I mean, I think I have to agree with you. Like, there's a lot of things we know Jingwei is going to do pretty well and sustain. I think SOT has to have a just albeit better game. Like, game 1 was not great from him. There's no way to sugarcoat that one. It just did not, like, he fell behind really hard, essentially from first blood forward. And so I want to see them have a little more presence in the solo lane throughout this one. But I think Layers is kind of the one that's dependent. Same thing for Inbound, switching from the Circuit to the Terra of all things. Terra hasn't necessarily been, it's not her first pick in the SPL this year. It's not going to be her last. I anticipate we'll always see her flexible into this slot, but maybe not exactly where I think of Inbound driving things forward. We'll give them some sustain though, but I think it's going to be Inbound and Layers this time around that if they want to win, it's going to be on their performances, right? Like, I think they are the ones, alongside a little bit of SOT, but those two are like the pillars to hold the team together and to get them into a good position for a victory.
And listen, the Scarabs really got super far behind in Game 1 off the back of aggression. They rotated everyone behind to look for a blue buff invade, and the Kings just were there. They just were ready to defend it as Twig gets forced out by Layers, who does not yet have the Gravity Surge to punish those sweeps away. And then afterwards, it was just relentless blue buff invades from the Kings. They really weren't letting SOT get any of his farm. Eventually, Variety was so far ahead, it was just beat down Boulevard over here. There wasn't anything that SOT could do. So eventually, things got out of control, but they just couldn't hang with them in the early. I don't want them to lose that early aggression they had in Game 1. They just got to find a way to execute on it a bit cleaner. They had a real chance to take Genetics down first in that game, and they got a little bit lost in there. I think Twig did good work to disrupt. If they want to go for more of that same aggression, which I think they should, just got to be a bit more careful.
I mean, it's this concept. Really, I keep watching Genetics. He now finishes his boots, but like more often than not, this guy is skipping his starter item, right? And it's been looking really good with him. Last time he went for the shell early on. Of course, he has the beads here, so maybe not looking to be as aggressive, but he's literally just outpacing everyone in the game because his movement speed right now compared to what everyone at boots 2 or no boots is going to be able to do. And on things like the Ymir, we were able to talk about it and how, you know, you lose a little bit of that sustain, but you manage to maintain yourself in terms of aggression with walls. Now it's kind of opening it up. I mean, I didn't expect that much damage from him.
And Zapman's falling, but Inbound's on his way to provide some support as Genetics nearly is able to find a kill on a Zapman early on in this game. Not quite enough, though, as Zapman wants to come back up and continue to claim his farm. This should be a good game still, though, for the Scarabs, aside from, you know, obviously not a great start over here on the long lane. They've got great knock-up synergy on this composition that can make Layers' life really easy with a Gravity Surge of pulling his priority targets. He has to make sure, though, I don't even know if the leap is the biggest interaction for him. Layers, again, doesn't have beads, so Twig could just grab him in his ultimate and drag Layers wherever he wants to. It's an aggressive early start for Layers. He has to show us he can be aggressive with it to make up for the fact that he's kind of a sitting duck when Twig shows up with the ultimate.
Yeah, at this point, the goal with the Scarabs, we've seen all 5 of these players, we've seen all 5 of them have success, right? The hallmark for them, they've said it on their Twitters, like this is, I'm not even saying anything new, this is not a new, unique thought, but it is going to be their team play. And I think that's a lot of what this comp is going to rely on. I think that's what their growth period over Phase 1 is going to be right now. From what we have seen, they've been able to have some of it. We've seen it happen, it just hasn't been consistent enough to really make the big difference in these wins. And I think that this trust around his team, like you said, there's a lot of good setup for Layers. Is he going to be able to find those kills? I mean, they straight up said it on the desk where, you know, this Fenrir is just not only a bad matchup, but almost ridiculous to try and pick into an Awilish, and yet Twig did it anyway. And Mifflin calls it disrespect. I could agree with that. I think it's confidence and disrespect, right? A little bit of both. Like, I don't think your Wheelish is going to be good enough to stop my Fenrir, is something that I could see the Kings doing. And after game number 1, you can't blame them for thinking that way with the way it went. So I want to see Layers prove that wrong, and I think that's going to be his goal throughout all of this, is not just his setup, but using Twig's kit against him, and like you said, maybe having to eat a couple of ults early on. I mean, there's a lot of dangerous engagements. If he jumps in or does any sort of engage onto Twig, and Twig just ults and picks him up, all of a sudden that's a pretty easy kill for the Kings versus what could have been. So level 12, maybe we'll see Layers going for a beads, depending on how much Twig focuses him down.
I'm pretty sure we'll see it. Yeah, he's going to need extra help just to get away from the CC. But and I want to make sure we're not putting too much pressure on Layers. I think if they want to win this game, he's going to have to prove it, but he doesn't have to prove to me, I don't think, early on in this season, kind of as you were saying, right, they're going to be working on their team play here in this first phase, that he can step to someone like Twig, who's been one of our most consistent players across the lifetime of SMITE. Eventually, I think this guy, with as much raw talent as he has, he'll be able to go toe-to-toe with Twig. Twig will have to respect these matchups as SOT grabs Variety. Variety doesn't seem perturbed, does he? My man's just making his way out. Finally, Fatal Strike comes out. Layers forces that just with his presence. So good work to at least get Variety to commit something defensively, but Layers still there just to get the totem on that right side. Shouldn't be more aggression as Inbound and Zap considering aggression in duo. I think the way that I'm evaluating Layers right now is that he keeps showing us better week after week, and I think eventually he'll just get there off of how strong he is and a little bit more experience.
The dynamic, right? I guess the proper way for me to word it would be, I don't expect him to hyper-carry a game, and I don't want him to. I think that's actually worse for the Scarabs if they're winning because Layers does so well. I want to see him just be a good jungler, and it's the same way. I want to see SOT do great in solo. I want to see everyone on the team succeed at what they do, because first off, it makes the league more competitive. That makes our job a lot easier, but I want to see this come through, and unfortunately, he's locked down.
Yeah, that's first blood, and that's exactly what I mean in that we haven't seen Blink value, as now there's more trouble as we see Netroid use the Bifrost. It takes him right to Baronic. He didn't want to stay inside the River's Rebuke, but the exit wasn't any better. He goes and gives a kill over to the Scarabs with a great response from Baronic being there for that left side gank. 3 members over there in left setting that one up. But that's my overall fear for Layers, is that if he's not already on Suku and looking for the jump, he's just going to get picked up by Twig every time.
No, I will say, good news, Finch, and this it's going to sound memey, but looking at the positives, it didn't take 20 minutes to get a single kill for the Scarabs. They're ready to fight, and they're scrapping now.
Tings is the target. He gets caught out in Layers. Uses the blink that time for some early aggression, and they want a bit more. Genetics is the target, but he makes his way underneath the mid-tier 1, but Baronic has the shot, and this is the Scarabs finding some early aggression, and just not enough respect from the Kings either, as if they didn't think that the boys were on their way. I know game 1 went well for them, but they cannot sleep on this roster. They ain't free, okay?
Exactly, and that's the thing I think the Scarabs have to set out to prove in game number 2. Whether or not they win this one, if it ends up being a 2-0 like the rest of the week, or if they can push it to 3 and Avrin's summoning circle works for, what is this, 3rd week? Yeah, the 3rd week in a row. Every single week she seems to have one that she pulls out on Sunday for a 3-game set. I think this is going to be the game where, even if the Scarabs go down, it has to be a very difficult game for the Kings for them. If they want to, again, it's more of just to solidify for them more than anything. And I love the pace that they've set on this game already. Even though it wasn't necessarily a great first blood, the aggression afterward has been solid. But you can't get double stunned like that. Any more follow-up, that could have been very dangerous. Luckily, it was only Tings just around the corner. And that's where I think the rest of this conversation has to come in. When I mentioned Fenrir, I think level 5 and, his ults. But I look at Achilles, I look at Merlin, Yamoja, Heimdall. All of those get a little bit better with age. Achilles, I think, starts to really, hit hard during that mid-game period, which we're slowly but surely starting to get to. And then that Merlin, Yamoja, Heimdall combo, in a late-game team fight, that's a lot of damage and a lot to try and handle.
It's a whole theory, though, in the sight to the Kings, but the Scarabs are nearby. The River's Rebuke is there to try and wall them off, and Zatman's already gotten a kill. The Scarabs take the objective, and Twig has to run for his life. Another turnaround battle from the Scarabs. They keep this one close, more than close, in their own favor. Netroid forced to run for his life, but who's waiting for him when he gets there? But Inbound, trying to make life hard for him to get back to the tier 2, but he should be able to do it. Layers is here at Inbound tanking. This will work. Layers gets the 2nd kill of the game. his game rather, by putting down Netroid. Camelot Kings, again, just starting up a Gold Fury all willy-nilly. What was the big advantage they had? They thought was going to make that one free.
I mean, Merlin burned damage, but it didn't seem to be doing a whole lot there. That Gold Fury did not fall anywhere near as fast as I think they were hoping it would. Pre-10 minutes, not an easy time to burn that one. And just, this is my favorite kind of game, too. After the way Game 1 went, this is my favorite kind where, you know what? You just lost that one. They're like, you recognize it, you own up to it, it didn't go well. And the Scarabs come out and just absolutely start punching down back on the Kings. They recognize what they needed to change, they changed some of it, and they're getting aggressive into it. And, you know, we've highlighted, yeah, there's maybe a little bit of kind of playing themselves here on the Kings, but the way, like, you don't play yourself and let Zapman walk on in there. Like, that's just, they didn't have a clean zone on the Kings, and Zapman was able to recognize it, gets a kill off of it. Baronic is able to help lock down that Fury. This is the Scarabs playing well around the circumstances the Kings have put them in. They just got to keep up a pace like this, right? Don't get caught out. I'm not, like, Layers ditching the Scorpion there to not have to fight Twig is not necessarily him running scared. It's just him choosing his battles into one that's going to be favorable for him. And I think this is exactly what we need to see out of it, is just look for the groupings, look for these 3v3s, and look for the small wins you can get. The Scarabs, this is a good start, but I want to see them drive this one as hard as they can forward.
They're in a great spot, as you said, though, up 2,000 gold or so. Puts him in a pretty good position to continue this, but they haven't even really been the aggressors. It's kind of my point. It's mostly been the Kings either starting something up without doing the due diligence ahead of time, or just kind of hanging around a little too long and letting the Scarabs walk up on him and finish off some kills. We'll see if the Scarabs can now move completely into the driver's seat. That's not a critique, by the way. I think there's nothing wrong with the Scarabs taking what was there, the low-hanging fruit the Kings gave them. But I think now they've got a bit of a lead to them. We might even get to see them step on the gas a bit, and this is that example. Pyromancer started up, and the Scarabs, the only ones nearby. The Kings don't feel like taking this fight or don't know there's a fight to take. Either way, the lead just got that much more difficult for the Kings to overcome with that Pyromancer going down for free. And I've been tracking the value of this blink as opposed to beads in the early game. It's resulted in 1 death and 1 kill. So, you know, it came out even. Not too bad there for Layers.
Yeah, good news for him, right? Not necessarily being detrimental, and he's been able to pick up those beads as he hits level 12. Everything that we wanted to see in the early game, you can brush your hands off. He did a good job for it. And this is something that I think is important. Again, going back to last game's draft, you add the Serket in, but she's building tanky, so not necessarily going to be a carry. Athena's there instead of what is the Awelish. There wasn't a lot of carry potential on the Scarabs to win fights, right? I mean, it was a slow comp that was going to have to play a slow game that wasn't really going to find a lot of kills anyway. Whereas once you get a Wheelish into this mix, Baronic's damage plus what Layers is going to throw out, and then later on what Zapman with this crit build now already has the Wind Demon online is going to be able to do, I think the combos that the Scarabs have here is going to be a lot better, and it's forcing the Kings to maybe reconsider some of their approach to this game. It's not going to be the walk through the park that game number 1 was. And I like the fact that they're having to change it up. So far, it's been patience, and you had highlighted that the Scarabs haven't really been aggressors yet, but last year, some of the greatest games we saw, specifically, I think, Sanguine at the time, the Leviathans, as we know them now, but they had games where they never would aggress. They would only be counter engagements, and they would absolutely thrash. They would wait for you. Like, if you didn't fight them, they would take an objective, and if you did fight them, they'd turn it on you. It was a lose-lose scenario for anyone who went into them. So the Scarabs, if they can keep this kind of pace up, even if it just means that, hey, maybe it's a low kill count game. Maybe we end it at 6 kills and they just start stripping neutral objectives and then eventually invading these camps, knocking down towers, whatever it takes. As long as they can continue an aggressive style, they maintain a lead instead of letting the farm catch up. Because Finch, I mean, it's at 4,000. Like, that's nothing to shrug at 13 minutes in. This is pretty monumental for the Scarabs.
Yeah, it's difficult to deal with if you're the Kings. That's why Zap can walk up and steal purple buff in your face. And that's exactly what he did there, even with genetics nearby and watching. So I'm right there with you, Gore. It doesn't necessarily have to be like engaging team fights for the Scarabs to be properly aggressive. They can do like that, right? Step up and find farm on the other side of the map for invades. It's like what could be about to be happening soon, which is this Fury respawning and the Kings being in an awful position to try and come up and contest. There's only a few places where they're really behind, like in support and ADC. Mid-jungle and solo, should still feel pretty comfortable up against their counterparts. Just maybe you don't want to fight Zapman with Wind Demon already done, but you don't have a choice. The Fury has already been started. But in comes Twig, Genetics, and Netroid. They are nearby. In fact, Twig up downs on top of SOT. Out comes the River's Rebuke from Genetics, and that does cut off this fight, but doesn't quite isolate inbound the way they'd want. Now they're hitting the slows, and he is forced to use the beads in order to retreat, and the Fury has been reset. And the Kings now here in force to defend, so this is critical for them. If they can find a way to keep the Scarabs off this Fury, they buy themselves some more time to catch up.
And it's a weird way to say this, but losing out on farm like that is a way for the Kings to come back into this. If the Scarabs can't maintain a lead or further a lead, well, then there's a hard limit on how far ahead and how much work the Kings have to put back in order to catch back up. Pyromancers, Primal Furies at this point are actually going to be very useful for them in terms of closing that gap. Fire Giant, obviously some towers would be very helpful for him. With all 12 still standing 15 minutes in, that first tier 1 might be a big opening for a certain player.
Whoa.
Looks like it's going to be Zapman Netroid going against each other. That's a 3-level lead for Zap.
That's why Zapman's dashing in. Inbound finds the stun, and in comes the airstrike from Zap. He wants to claim Netroid, but Genetics puts himself in the middle. That blocks the key autos and does keep Netroid alive. Even Baronic had rotated into this. And if I'm Tings, I'm thinking I gotta be careful. He knew the boys were coming into lane. His team pointed out, but there they go defending purple. Not bad to make it over there. But again, the Scarabs did get those beads out from Netroid. He's more vulnerable as a result, so still feels a bit like job done for the Scarabs.
I mean, it kind of showcases what is necessary here. What was detrimental to them last time. I mean, so many level deficits that we got to highlight. I didn't even look down to notice that Zap was up by 3. Inbound's got a level lead as well. And there's a level lead in the jungle for Layer. So ultimately, experience falling exactly where you'd want it. And Zapman definitely going to be feeling good about it. The crit build already picked up, or the Wind Demon, I should say. Then you want to go ahead and grab that Executioner soon. Presumably after this Fury, if they get it, it puts the onus on the Kings to react and get something done here.
And they're not going to come in on this one. This is the Primal Fury going to the Scarabs unless maybe Genetics can take it, but I don't even think he's going to consider it. Fury goes over to the Order side team. Looks like they'll trade it out for Pyromancer. This is their protest, right? They're not out in the streets. It's sort of a quiet, hey, we'll study at night instead of just never learning anything type of protest. What kind of weird deep cut was that one? Either way, though, the Kings find their way of trying to keep this one close. It's about 3,000 gold. So as you said, the Kings found a way to keep the Scarabs plateauing and not actually growing the lead too far, but it's still a problem where it's a problem. That is in particular support and ADC, the duo lane, that have ended up behind. But look at the curve on these charts. They've brought it down a little bit. It's exactly as you said. They really found a way to keep the Scarabs from getting too much further out of control, but now with the towers going down, this is what they want.
Well, it's gone, like you said, from about 4,000 to 3,000-ish, right? Still hovering a little more in favor of the Kings, but, you know, the Scarabs still have control. The Executioners finish off. Was that man's lead? Like, this is where it becomes more of a critical mass. Like, if you do take an engagement, I think that the Scarabs with this lead, you have to win it overwhelmingly. Even a couple of losses, I would say even an even trade for you isn't going to necessarily be the best. And so you have to be very careful where you engage, who you engage, because if you make one slip up, you end up in a 2v4 by accident, and you're going to be the ones feeling the brunt of it. And that's how simple I think the Kings are going to be able to turn this around. It feels difficult when you're in the lead, you know, when you have all of the capabilities to choose wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do. With no big neutral objectives up, it is this kind of tiptoe around where to be at. I mean, in 19 minutes last game, we were watching the Kings take down left Phoenix, right? So they were already pushing down this left-hand lane. This is a great deterrent from the Scarabs. But they got to make sure that in 29 minutes, or, well, not in 29 minutes, 10 minutes from now at 29 minutes, that they're not just in the same state and they prolonged it 10 extra minutes, right? They need to make sure that they can translate it not just into a greater Scorpion or the Primal Fury or a Pyromancer, but something around this Fire Giant. If they're able to get some control, and you're going to need a big fight, or you're going to have to force the Kings to make an awkward decision. It looks like they might be going for number 2 here, just by leashing it and trying to pull him in.
And the Kings are not fully set up for this defense just yet either. Netroid's still making his way in, and Tings not grouped up. That's not stopping Twig from looking for a jump. It does not. net him much of anything, though, and Tings continues to hold his position off to the side of this engagement. I wonder if the Scarabs really do want to kind of hold Fire Giant and try and secure it against the Kings. They're not so far ahead that that's free for them, but they're certainly favored. But it doesn't look like they do here, Gormizer. It looks like they would much rather try and take it when the Kings are not present than brute force it down in a prolonged battle. But now they're heading back over towards the fire area again. No, it's an engage from inbound. Blink into ult, and Tings has been caught out. Still hasn't used any relics. Finally, Beats comes out, and he does stay alive. Meanwhile, Twig looking for a bite. He does find Layers, who's already used his relics. He jumps out on Suku, but is stuck inside the River's Rebuke, and Genetics gets the kill, and the Kings are the first ones to strike blood in this prolonged engagement, and Zap has to use his ultimate defensively just to escape. How do the Kings pull it off?
Look, I want to give Genetics a lot of credit. That's a great placement on his ult to make sure that Layers has no real place to escape to. But the real winner of that engagement for me has to be Twig. Like, I mean, a 3-man stun, turning the engage onto Tings completely on its head, and being able to find something like that. I mean, it was very similar to the blue buff invade that we got to see at the very beginning of game number 1. Great play by Twig to be able to set that one up. And it's only 1 kill, Finch, but, I mean, you have to watch the charts, and again, how much maybe experience it ends up netting them, what
and the relics
overall ends up happening, and you get to burn a lot of that. And look at that gold lead. It's now 2,800, right? Again, not a lot of gold, but a little bit more in favor of the Kings than it was before. And that experience chart is maybe the bigger one. What was, 3 levels, 4 levels, is now skyrocketing downward towards the Kings. Granted, Zapman did hit level 20, same thing for SOT, so it's only catch-up from this point forward. With Tings and Twig, no, Tings and Variety already hitting there. It's not going to be much longer until we get to see Netroid take over. So it's a little bit of a catch-up game for Twig, but everybody else is hitting the hard limits. The big advantages I think the Scarabs could have taken advantage of are starting to slip away. Now it's going to become to itemization and team fights. I'm going to be honest, I'm a little timid about that part. Team fights have not necessarily been the Scarabs' saving grace over the last few weeks. So we'll have to see if they can switch it around this game before the Kings get everything together.
Well, still, the Scarabs not trying to force another fight at Fire just yet. They've got SOT over to D-Ward, a little bit of backup close in Layers and inbound. Still 3 sets of beads down for them as a result of Twig and Genetics' handiwork, but they'll be back in a little over a half minute. And Zapman will take this window to sneak away the Fury before any one of the Kings can respond. And sneak it away they shall. Maybe the Kings have a chance to grab Pyromancer. Not quite as good, obviously, but it'll at least be something. Though SOT close enough to maybe go for a steal. No shot. The Kings grab the Pyro in response. So still, Scarabs not looking to try and start up a big Fire Giant fight, but they should be feeling a bit better about it soon. Their beads are about to be all back up. They've sent some members back to buy ward coverage. They can get a little bit of the information battle on their side, and then maybe force the Kings into a battle where the Scarabs can try and pick them apart.
Each team has the same positives and negatives when it comes to these objective fights, which is that both are going to have pretty good burn, maybe a little bit better on the Kings just because of the Merlin than it is for the Scarabs. But at the end of the day, neither team really has a big secure on board. None of those big bursty ult mages that we typically see come through to guarantee it. Kind of do what we used to have Hand of the Gods for, right? Find that execute when it's low threshold to guarantee it for yourselves. Nobody has that. And so it could easily be a Fire Giant, and I wouldn't be surprised if you told me that maybe one gets stolen by a stray auto attack. That maybe wasn't even intended for it. Sometimes you can miss that attack you're going for, potentially hit the FG. So there's going to be a lot of stress, I think, on whoever engages on it first. They're going to be looking more for the team fight as opposed to the Fire Giant itself. But they have to start making their way over to the right-hand side. It's the only big neutral objective up. Netroid's over here looking to try and just knock down a Tier 1 tower. And depending on this trade, earlier it favored Zapman because of the level lead. But if they get into a 1v1, even a single one of them goes down, the other team has a large advantage when it comes to the FG.
And you've got the right read that a lot of these advantages are starting to melt away. 4 items for Twig, 4 and a third there for Layers, as Twig has now made his way over 20 and takes the opportunity to upgrade his starter just like Layers. Both of the mid laners have their starters upgraded at this point. Both Hunters have them upgraded too, But looks like Variety still hasn't gotten that Bluestone Brooch. We know he'll go as Variety blinks past SOT. Still a win for the Scarabs. They just got that blink for nothing. That's going to make it harder for Variety to get right back there to Zapman. But for the most part, these fights shouldn't be too hard for the Kings to get into and defend. The Scarabs have maybe a slight advantage here and there, but nothing so crazy that if you're the Kings, you can't try and get into this next fight and make it close.
We always, I will say, poke fun at it. Slow game, 7 kills, 24 minutes. It's the EU style. And I look at one of these teams, they have majority EU players. I'm certain they feel just at home the way things have gone here. The Kings aren't too stressed out about this because we are entering that territory. I mean, 2,200, maybe 2,100 gold separating the two teams. It's not enough that even getting a Fire Giant is going to be able to win it. Honestly, we're in a position where one good team fight. 25 minutes in, you wipe 4 of them. You don't even need the Fire Giant. You just run it down and knock down a couple of towers. In fact, if anything, this is where the state of the game has to come into the equation, and that's that the Scarabs have 3 towers standing versus 5 on the other side. And yeah, those 3 towers, tier 2s, are going to be enough of a defense that you have to force down one of them. But you knock down 1 tier 2, 1 Phoenix, and if nobody's alive for 30 seconds, that's plenty of time to kill a Titan. I think that is something that you should be worried about if you're a Scarabs fan here. The Kings have a better map win state as of right now, although with that 1 tier 1 going down on right and a little bit of pressure here in mid, they could equalize it pretty quickly and maintain a much larger gold lead than they just had.
Metroid about to have a pretty big back. Goes to base with 3k gold, and that means Deathbringer now on his side. That's a pretty big power spike for him to match Zapman's as the mid-tier 1, the target for the Scarabs. No relics or ults committed just yet to it as the Scarabs back up and can't force their way into this mid-tier 1 tower to break things open. But the Kings now in a really good spot with that key item finish for Metroid. He should be swinging. Genetics still a good deal behind of Inbound in terms of his item completion rate. That Relic Dagger at the end there is one more item that Inbound has than Genetics, and that gives them another small advantage. But just about everywhere else, these teams should be very much close at this point, despite how the Scarabs started this game off. They came roaring out of the gates as the Kings did in Game 1, but the Kings translated that into a win. The Scarabs couldn't do it as Twig makes it back to the Tier 1 safely and goes in with the Ragnarok. He does manage to grab SOT. That gets his beads out. River's Rebuke cuts the fight off, and SOT taking damage. He goes up to the sky with his ultimate, but if the team of the Kings are behind him and they execute there from Variety, so Layers comes in. Tings is the one that he knocks up, but Tings drops the relics and lives it, and Layers is forced to run for his life. Inbound low as well, and the Kings come out on top in that little skirmish, 1-0. But Twig take a ton of damage from Baronic. Nice little response. But do the Kings feel good enough with this emoji to sustain to go for FG, knowing they've got the advantage? Layers has to back Inbound low as well, and it looks like yes, score they will.
They have to be worried about Zapman, though. That ult is the only thing I think that could try to strip this away as of right now. A little bit of damage from Baronic would be devastating as well. Variety takes a ton of
they got
get the FG.
And they do lose Variety on the back of it, though, but Twig trying to re-engage a fight where maybe they can make it worth their while. He moves in with Brutalize, and Baronic goes down, so in comes Inbound and Layers trying to find something in trade, but there's just nothing there. Big Man Tings with the damage, and Inbound goes down as well. Zapman Airstrike must be used to get him out and over the wall, but the Kings waited. They were willing to bide their time, Gore, and now Twig goes in again. Ragnarok collects Zapman, who does not have beads. He uses Aegis in what's certainly a losing effort, so an extra advantage goes the way of the Kings as they turn this game around on the back of their patient, slow play style that whittled away at the lead of the Scarabs.
I mean, 2 different gods, but I had deja vu there. Layers walks in, takes half his health, backs off, leaves, comes back into the fight, takes half his health, leaves. Just was not able to be impactful. I mean, he was 2-1. They've got 10 seconds left. They're going to go for it.
They've got to be burning this Titan quickly if they want this to work, and they are. They already have it down to half HP. The Merlin damage is striking true, and Layers can't keep them at bay. The Kings find a way to do it. Only 13 kills on the board. They only need 7 to find a 2-0 over the Scarabs.
I mean, that's... Look, they got to a certain point. The Scarabs had a much cleaner early game, but I even said it at one point. I said you have to, like, you're getting to the point where the only wins that you'll be able to get for this game to find anything big are going to be team fights. That wasn't necessarily where I expected the Scarabs to be that strong after what we've seen, and I'm going to go ahead and say that's kind of what I'm continuing to see. The Kings, though, just ate them apart. Really well played in terms of separating them. Good stuns. Like Twig's Fenrir was on point today, and I think was able to accomplish a lot. But even at the very end there, like Variety gave his life in order to ensure his team that Fire Giant, and it ended up working out beautifully for them.
It did, man. A big win that ends up going the way now of the Kings. They find themselves up 2-0. A quick reminder, though, for you all at home, that part of the reason we've been able to bring the SPL to you is that we have partnered here with Alienware. If you want to go hit them up, make sure you're using code SMITEAW. That is smitegame.com/Alienware to pick up some gear so you, too, can make a big comeback victory in your own games powered by all of their excellent gear. Seems like something that could be a whole lot of fun trying to mimic what the Kings just got done here. Gore, I am so pumped with the way the SPL is looking this year with a big win there for the Kings, and hopefully the Scarabs can eventually turn things around for them. But we'll take a break. We'll be right back to go over everything that happened there in Game 2.
Welcome back to the SMITE Pro League, everybody. It was 26 minutes of a game determined by the Solar Scarabs, and then 2 minutes determined by the Camelot Kings on their way to the enemy Titan. It's a 2-0 for the Kings, but the Scarabs did look better. Now, if you want to look better, you should be going to Inside Apparel. And you're going to shop.smiteproleague.com. Thank you very much, Mifflin, for your Insight Apparel needs. They've got all of our SPL merch, so you can go there, get an SPL hat, alongside a Camelot Kings jersey and a Solar Scarabs hoodie. And all of your friends will be confused as to who you root for, but it won't matter because you'll know deep down in your heart. And that's all that really matters. Miff, better for the Scarabs for the first 25 or 26 minutes of this game. They had an excellent early game. They started pushing the lead. Then they stopped pushing the lead quite as much. They met some resistance. They waited it out until the late game. And it was just one team fight that the Kings needed in order to end the game.
But the Scarabs did allude to this issue in their own interviews. All right, we're going to work on the early game, and clearly they nailed it based on the beginning of Game 2. Now we got to see them work on the mid game, and then after that, the late game, and then expect this team to be better and better week in and week out. But you got to give props to the Camelot Kings. It is not easy to make a comeback of this caliber this quickly. That is a 4,000 gold deficit into a clean team fight, into an even cleaner Fire Giant, into a clinical Titan kill.
Yeah, it was just one by one there for the Solar Scarabs. Not a great team fight to take where SOT gets up a little bit too far and gets picked off, and then the rest of the team comes in to help, and then they chase out the Fire Giant. They kill one, but it requires them to jump in, and then everyone feels like they're priced in. Still feels like they're getting a little bit caught up in those types of moments at times, but that's to be expected from a team like the Solar Scarabs that is a little bit short on when it comes to experience, but certainly have the talent to make plays happen. It took the Kings making a pretty big comeback in order to get back into this one.
Completely agree, man. Baronic makes the Tiamat look good here with 3-1. Unfortunate that your 3-1 results in a loss at the end of the day, but I think that there should be some Solar Scarabs fans out there that are pretty happy with how Game 2 rolls out. Maybe the Kings fans even happier, though, able to make that miraculous comeback. Best KD for them is Captain Twig out of the jungle on a god that we thought, or at least I thought, would have struggled up against this Awilish, but still able to out-damage his counterpart as well as out-farm him and then find the win at the end of the day.
It seems like that worked out pretty well for him at the end of the day. 12,000 player damage for Baronic, highest on his squad. Layer is a bit of a struggle in this one, only 4,000 player damage for him. Netru had topped the charts at nearly 16k, so an impressive performance from him after a fairly quiet Game 1, though didn't really need a whole lot from him in Game 1. That was the right side of the map that was under siege in that first game of this set. With that, Mifflin, the Kings raise up to 3-2, now looking like they are solidly in that top echelon of SPL teams.
Yeah, I think they are going to be a team that is in contention for that second, third slot. I think the majority of fans at home know who I'm alluding to in that number 1 slot. The same ones that were there all year last year. I think the Jade Dragons probably going to be able to find themselves comfortable on the throne for a little bit, but maybe not for long with the Kings knocking on their heels.
This team has been impressive, man, and it's been fun to watch as well because they're coming with some pretty different play styles coming in every single week. And a big part of that, of course, is their jungler, Captain Twig. He's standing by with John Finch for a post-game interview. I promise. Any minute now.
Oh, there it is.
Thank you, man. It's Finch here. I am indeed going to have Captain Twig here with me for this interview. Twig, let me ask you this first question, man. There was some doubt on the desk about that Finmer pick you selected going into the Awilish, like maybe an overtly bad matchup you elected to go into, but it didn't seem to matter much to you. What were you thinking about when you locked that one in?
Well, it's a tough matchup for sure. Obviously, Awilix can ult the jump, but I don't really pick for the 1v1 in the jungle always. Often a lot of matchups elsewhere can go a lot better for you, or you can just play utility and not really... You can ignore the 1v1 with your Awilix and play for the 5v5 and against...
Well, talk to me a little bit about Game 2, because things did not start off great for you guys. It was a pretty good start there for the Scarabs. They built up a nice little 3 to 4K lead or so, but it felt like you guys just kind of bunkered down and said, hey, eventually this is going to kind of plateau. We can get back in. What was kind of the team mentality like? It wasn't a huge deficit, but you all seemed to be able to handle it pretty well.
We were definitely down. I mean, I think we made a terrible Gold Fury call as a team, and we committed to it, and it went terribly. We got it stolen, and we died. I think two of us died for it. And so when you've made mistakes like that already, that's going on in your head, and you know why you're behind. So I mean, I was pretty impressed by the team's ability to just focus up, don't make any like crazy plays, don't like do anything stupid, and just wait till we're stronger later on when maybe the lead expires a little bit. Play trade objectives, try to just cut our losses.
Well, you did that really well, and it worked out almost exactly as you guys drew it up, as you found a late game victory. Talk to me a little bit, though, about what it means for this team to have started so well to this season. I mean, you guys, there weren't a lot of people with high expectations for you. I was among those that wasn't a believer right out of the gate, but you guys have looked great. What does it mean for you all to have started off so well here?
I mean, it means the world. I don't even think, honestly, that we were ever dreaming of being a top 2 team. I didn't think we could beat Jade Dragons off the bat as a new team. 5 people that have never played with each other before. Well, I played with Harry in Season 3, but it's just we had a long way to go from the first scrims we had in the first match. And I think improvement is maybe one of the best of all the SBL teams right now, and I mean, it means the world to us that we're sitting pretty comfortably on around the 3rd spot of the league.
Well, you've earned it so far, Twig, and I only hope we get to see you guys keep looking better, man. Appreciate taking the time to talk to me. Good luck in your upcoming matches, and we're going to take things back over to the desk.
Thanks, Finch.
Thank you, fellas. Appreciate the time, Twig, as always. Always love to get a chance to hear from him. And Mifflin, it seems to be the kind of trend for this Kings squad that they might be a little bit ahead of schedule from where they expected to be, but they seem to be pretty happy to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy to see him there as well, right? I was along the same lines as Finch, where I thought this team's going to come in solidly middle of the pack throughout the year. I was thinking 4th, maybe 5th seed, and that's really the cap of what they were going to be capable of, but immediately proven wrong out of the rip, man. These guys are looking incredibly strong, not only individual player skill, but as a team as well.
They've really earned it. Take a look at the schedule for next week. They're going to kick us off next week, actually, up against the Valhalla Valkyries. Or no, this was last week. I was going to say that I swear they just played the Valkyries, but I could have read and learned for myself. They kicked off this week by beating the Valhalla Valkyries 2-0, and then they beat the Solar Scarabs 2-0. So a nice little Camelot King sandwich here for this week of the SPL. Of course, the notable game of the week, Jade Dragons up against the Atlantis Leviathans. The Leviathans suffer their first loss, and the Jade Dragons stay undefeated going into next week of the SPL. That brings us to our standings where, as I just mentioned, the Jade Dragons are still undefeated. And as Twig mentioned, right along that 3rd slot alongside the Olympus Bolts are the Camelot Kings.
And they're hot in the heels, the Bolts, I believe. Camelot Kings have already played against both Jade Dragons and Atlantis Leviathans, if memory is serving correctly, which is going to be both of their losses, if memory serves as well. So going forward, they're going to have some pretty decent matchups that they could potentially win, or maybe the fans should be expecting them to win, and potentially could even overcome the Bolts here in the standings.
Tartarus Titans find the win column for the first time this week as well, so they are now a part of that big old traffic jam underneath the Camelot Kings, the 1-win group. Let's see next week's schedule so you can get a little bit of a preview of what you'll see starting next Friday. We're going to kick it off with the Tartarus Titans up against the Valhalla Valkyries. We'll see if the Titans can put together a little bit of a win streak because they've got a doubleheader next week, also facing off against the Oni Warriors in a big test on Friday for those Olympus Bolts. Sitting at 3-1. They have their toughest matchup yet up against the Jade Dragons.
They sure do, and it's a doubleheader, isn't it, for the Olympus Bolts? Not only is it going to be a tough matchup up against the Dragons, but they also got to tackle the Kings themselves back there on Sunday. Look, that's not easy, man. That is a tough week. I do not envy the Bolts.
Very excited to see where that Bolts team ends up. 3-1 right now, but the one loss was to the Leviathans at the very beginning of the season. Now they're playing against the other top 2 teams that aren't the Leviathans. We'll see if they can pass that test next week, so make sure you tune in for that. But we're done for this week in the SPL. It doesn't mean we're done with competitive SMITE for the week. The SMITE Open Circuit is coming up right after this. We've got our weekly finals coming up in about 10 minutes, so make sure you stay tuned. Mifflin will be there. Blazy Bard will be there. You're going to want to be there. That's all I know about that. But we're going to take a quick break. For now, you can peach it.
Chair it, actually. It's going to be a chair, aggro.
It's
We're doing a chair
It's a
thing.
douche.
The music's
No,
going.
we're
Oh,
not.